We actually have ancient gears for you today, Buster Blader, Dinosaurs, and some other interesting contenders. Make sure you guys smash the oven crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more ancient content. Yeah, well, today we're digging up the ancient gear golem deck out here, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen this deck perform in hardly any time fairly recently, but it's still, this is just going second to turbo, right? Because you just drop the ancient gear fusion and then just kind of laugh at your opponent as you bring out any of your really big toolboxing monsters, and you just kind of aim to crush your opponent. Some of the biggest things I see with this list are we are using the Infinitrack package in here to kind of set things up so you can, you know, obviously do your lines of play. You still want to make sure that you can get into Ballista, which triggers into the gearbox, which kind of unlocks the entire deck out here. So look at some of these test hands. Okay, we got the heavy forward to search, and of course we did get a gear town, so you know we can get places in terms of pop ability here. We do have the catapult. I love this card. This thing is always going to be, you know, little fun things out here. Just a free little pop. Anchor drill with the trencher. Okay, you know, we can also get places with this, and the disc coliseum to get to the Regulus. Okay. Once again, man, I love opening up this catapult. We are really getting places here. All right, you know, I like the general premise behind this deck. You're gonna have to sit down and really get into the driver's seat of this deck to kind of understand a lot of the play lines and things that you're going to do. But Merrymaker setting up into the Sargast to kind of pass things on into a Sky Thunder depending on how the field sets up, or you know, just hitting the Power Bond, High Roll, OTKs, or Ancient Gear fusioning out to punish the opponent with the big guys. You have by far, I think, one of the most unique toolbox options available to you. And it all kind of just starts by tossing, you know, one of these very bad cards at your opponent. Okay. Next up here we have the Buster Blader deck. Now, if you haven't noticed, the real best way to play this deck as a late or any sort of incarnation with this is probably going to be Branded Fusion. Like, as much as we want to give Branded Fusion some sort of crap or whatever it is, you know, stick to playing it in pure Branded, no. This brings a level of synergy to this deck that it actually does need to have, all right? Especially, I do hate to say it, but you also having access to the Dark Dragoon makes so much of your life easier, right? Big boss monsters that can steamroll the opponent are always going to be incredibly useful to have. Now, the biggest thing that this deck is still going to do is, you guess what? You're going to get access to the little things out here that Buster Lock your opponent. You kind of love the fact that making the Buster Blader is just kind of one of the freest dumb things that this deck can do. Because, you know, converting everything into a dragon, you do have to kind of set up a little bit for the Buster Dragon itself, but that shouldn't be too hard because you have a pretty good split here. You're doing double Sword of Memories, the triple prologue, and you also have the double trap trick, so you effectively have access to 7 of these so you can set up. And with dragons being a little bit more popular here, you're going to get some value off of the good old Super Poly. Imagine a day where you can drop a Buster Blader and then proceed to Super Poly on in to the Buster Blader. You know, your opponent sets up a Dissipator or something. Okay, sure, I'll just go ahead and Super Poly on into it. And it's not even, you know, considering the fact that Fallen of Albaz itself is a dragon, so, you know, you can kind of hard make into one of these. So many little lines of play that you can do with this deck. This is actually really cool. I'm fairly impressed with this. You know, the Dark Magician turbo backing, the consistency of this, and then the defensive locking mechanism of the Dragon Buster Sword. Okay. Alright, we have Dinosaurs. So the first thing I'm going to tell you about this deck is we are doing the scrap package. I know a few people a little bit more on the fence about the scrap package as late, but it's the best combo line that I think the deck has. If you notice, we're not doing any of the ground Xeno plays. We're not doing any of the extra vanilla stuff that kind of comes with this. If you gut out that package, you kind of return the deck back to the way that it was quite some time ago. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I am seeing some consistent results here. See that we all are also playing one copy of the Nemesis Keystone. Just let you target one of your banished monsters, special summon this card from the hand, and you do shuffle a target back into the deck. So guess what? You can actually reset your miscellaneous Dinosaurs that you just yeeted out of play into, you know, searching it again for a defensive line. It really depends on how you open up with this, but nice little interaction there. And of course, yeah, you're enough of a scumbag, you can actually make the Naturia Beast in this deck. This is what I mean, like, after you rip out all the Ground Xeno extra little play lines that you kind of had with, you know, the other versions, you get the chance to kind of Naturia Beast grind your opponent, and that's not a bad thing at all, alright? The fact that you do get that little extra piece of candy should be relatively easy, and to be honest, we've seen so many of these lists. Typically your M board is Borreload Savage plus whatever, because, you know, typical drop the Wyvern down. But you have Dinosaur combo is pretty easy to play. Obviously, you have more destructive cards in here than I think a lot of people might give this deck credit for. Dark Holing a Baby is also, you know, free real estate for the deck. Outside of that, yeah, nice little, I would say this is a good throwback to old Dinosaurs and Friends. We have Draco Slayer and Friends today. Now, this deck did not exist last format. I think I saw one successful run out of this because Arise Heart Zone Locking ruined pendulums. I actually can't believe that Konami allowed that mechanic to kind of stick around, because Draco Slayer, well, actually any pendulum deck can't play the game. When Mr. Arise Heart goes lock a zone, there's nothing you can do now. Now that we've kind of taken that away, you do get the chance to kind of see this deck return back into the light here. And of course, I mean, we get the ability to end on Sloth. This card is so stupid. And we also have the searchable Secret Village in this deck. So, you know, the little gimmicks that you get with this deck, especially with these two cards, for the extra little locks to put on the opponent are incredibly nice. That's one thing I will give this deck in terms of it not looking the best. Your utility options are some of the best that you can really get. The only thing I think hurts this deck sometimes is its own consistency, and also it hurts my head trying to play pendulum decks. Sorry. But as long as you can high roll a Draco face off and, you know, roll on into, you know, whatever means that you need to get to, ends up being pretty strong. Also, you know, post side decking, you can have access to the Necro Valley or the Zombie World. I love the fact that this deck can just have any of the utility assets of any field spell that it really needs. You know, depending on the matchup, you can bring in the anti-focus, and your opponent's just kind of forced to stare at you and go, yeah, well, that's cool, man. Not only can I not Dark Ruler your, you know, set up huge field here, I now have to deal with, you know, not being able to essentially play the game if underneath this card. So, once again, the cool little things that make this deck what it is. Next up here, we have Trap Tricks. They won an event. There is no Pot of Prosperity. There's no Pot of Extravagance in here. There's no of that expensive DLC that we're used to. Oh, I mean, Drolls and Ashes. Who cares? All right. This is the first time that I have seen this build show up without Pot of Prosperities, that extra stuff. This is a big win to the budget players. Yeah, I'm sorry, hand traps exist, but you know, if you need to focus on these, you're only playing one entire spell in the deck. I also see down here post side deck we can bring in the Banishing Trap Hole, and we're actually playing the triple Polynosis. You know, I have not seen this deck. I've seen Rika Sun Avalon taking advantage of Polynosis, but you know, you do have access to plant monsters in here. You might not think it, but you know, you do have little plants that can be, especially Sarah being a plant, you just tend not to think about it, that, you know, you do see this very nice mix of insects and things. So getting that extra mileage for Polynosis for this deck, that is some of the cutest stuff that I've seen in a while. So congratulations to Trickstar here, actually managing to take down its event. And I do think that this is a pretty strong indicator out here that if you're looking for budget options, once again, minus hand traps, understandable. Sorry, you're probably going to need to get those anyway. I would give this some consideration. This looks like one of the better versions of things out here. So, what do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace.
Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.